1075 presents Mad Science Workshop, and here with this week's show is your host, Kristi NIpp.
Hello and welcome to Mad Science Workshop. You were here earlier today, so welcome back. Today we're going to do a few more science experiments dealing mostly with chemistry. The first one that I want to do is a penny trick. Can I get some pennies actually? Sorry. Surprise! Science is fun and sometimes you gotta go with the flow. So I will begin preparing for this. It's very slowly, I mind you. Okay, so the first thing that I'm gonna do is have about a 1/4 cup of vinegar. Add it to my bowl. If you pour in the vinegar, that should do. You should really measure, but I'm not a real scientist yet, so maybe one day I'll measure. Okay, so first thing I did was I put about a 1/4 cup of vinegar into my bowl. After that, you take your dirty pennies. So I have all these different pennies here, and I'm just going to drop them straight into the vinegar. After I do that, I'm going to roll my vinegar around on them, stir them around a little bit. So what I'm looking for is a chemical reaction that is going to basically remove the copper dioxide, or copper oxide, excuse me. Copper dioxide is what makes pennies dull and dingy and dirty. So what I'm going to do is take about a 1/4 teaspoon of salt and add it straight into my vinegar. I'm going to stir this all around. So the longer this sits in here, the better the reaction is going to be. So if you have a bunch of pennies at home and you just feel like cleaning them up, give it a shot, you know? You never know how it will turn out. So the longer these in here, like I said, the better it will clean them. So now that I have put them in here, I'm going to take them out one by one. Let that one sit in there a little longer. All right, so some of them turned out a little better than others. It might be due to the level of grime that is on them. Who knows? And maybe they just needed a little longer in this vinegar salt mixture. But as you can see, we're already starting to get a chemical reaction. The copper oxide is diminishing from the pennies, which is pretty cool. Eventually, normally once you do this, you would rinse them off to get all of that vinegar salt mixture off of the pennies. If you don't do that and you just let them sit here and dry, it will form a chemical called malachite. That is going to make it look green and dingy and dark, almost like before we even clean them off. So that's just a fun trick that you can show your parents, clean up their coin purse if you want. They might appreciate it. Okay, so now that we've learned about copper oxide and how it removes the dirt and grime from pennies, we're going to move on to another experiment. This one is called a balloon trick. Yeah. So we're going to take a bottle with water, approximately 1 inch. That's about an inch. Okay, bottle with about 1 inch of water, and then we're going to add, what are we adding? We're going to add some yeast to that. Yeast is a living microorganism. Once activated, it begins to release gas. So what we're hoping to learn here is how the gas particles expand. All right, so I'm going to add them to my water. And then in a minute, I'll show you what happened.
Are you a new parent and can't find a way to make your baby stop crying? All new parents struggle with this. You need the Baby Translator. Put it on your baby's head and real human language will be heard.
Oh, that's much better. Thanks, Daddy. I love you.
Thanks, Baby Translator.
Get your Baby Translator today.
Okay, we are back. So just like many science experiments, you don't know exactly what you're doing when you're doing it. That just happened to me. So what I'm going to do now is see what happens when I experiment with not a mistake, but a different way to go about doing things. Okay, so what I've done is I've added my yeast to my water. This yeast is activating, so right now it is releasing carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Just like a tree, just like when you breathe, it's releasing gas. So what we're going to do next is pour about half a cup of vinegar into the bottle. So normally what you would do is add the vinegar to the bottle first and then pour in your yeast mixture that has been activated to it. So we'll see what happens doing it this way. All right, so we've added our vinegar. Now what we're going to do is place a balloon around the rim of the bottle. So as it's releasing the gas, what we hope to happen is that it will fill up the balloon. So as you can see, not a lot is happening. Normally this balloon would grow and eventually stagnate. So what we've learned here now is that the vinegar or the acid should come first, and the yeast, which has been activated, is poured into that. So watch your steps, not literally, but literally. Okay, so for our last experiment, what we're going to do is something that's called elephant toothpaste. So I've had the question earlier, why is it called elephant toothpaste? Supposedly, when you squeeze out a giant tube of toothpaste, it would look just like this. Maybe less color, but we like the color, so we're going to try it that way. What I need is to find my page. We're going to take a bottle and add peroxide. So peroxide is the chemical that we're going to be using today. Hydrogen peroxide is the name. We're going to fill it about maybe a little over halfway because I really want to see a good reaction to it today. So the more peroxide, the bigger the reaction. I'm going to fill it a little bit more. Not afraid to get a little messy, so we won't worry about spills. We have a pan to protect if need be. Okay, so that's not quite halfway full in the bottle. That's what we're going to do, see what happens. Okay. Next, we're going to take a funnel with some green food coloring. You can add any food coloring that you would like to. It's just for looks. Okay. So that's our hydrogen peroxide with our green food coloring. Next, add just a little bit of soap. This is just going to help make the experiment grow and make it more interesting. Okay. So again, we need a little water and some yeast activated. Pour water into a bottle. And we'll take our yeast. Okay, so I'm pouring the yeast into the water. Yeast, like I said before with our experiment, is a living organism, so when you add water to it, you can also add sugar, which would make it basically eat. That's its energy source. But we're not going to add sugar this time. We're just going to see what happens without the sugar. Okay. So yeast and water. I'm going to stir to activate it. The longer you stir, the hotter it gets, the bigger it will grow. Okay. So here we go. This is the elephant toothpaste. There we go. Thank you for the show. Wow, that went really fast. The first one was
perfect.
Yeah.